Okay, maybe we'll start. It's quarter past the hour. So today we have Matti Pärssinen from Cygate. He's heading Cygate's network production. So basically he runs the whole production, so run operations on the operations of networks. So he knows how to run kind of your networks and how to produce the services to your clients and customers. So, but without further ado, please, Matti, we are all yours.
Okay. So, my name is Matti Pärssinen and I'm working for a company called Cygate. I'm going to tell a little bit about the company and then present some ideas of what modern infrastructure management is and what challenges we are facing. Maybe not only us, I think all others are facing also, and then come to some conclusion in the end. But first, a few words about myself. I feel passionate about lifelong learning. I've been studying practically all my adult life. I'm studying at the moment here at Aalto University also. I met a few of you in different classes. And I also like working in a business critical or mission critical businesses, meaning that I do some work that has a meaning. Currently we are operating around 200 different companies, networks and their security solutions. And I feel like that we are doing something that not too many companies can do. And I also am very interested in sustainability and ideas that come from green IT and things that come to data centers at the moment. And this is the area where I'm going to concentrate on my studies when I continue them here. And as a hobby, I read theoretical philosophy and I really like the depth of that and also the ideas that I get from there. But the main mission I have is to understand these new technologies and how they are giving possibilities to create new services to our clients and to our customers, and especially see that how these technologies change the way people work. There are plenty of examples, but mainly Cygate is focused on infrastructure, so we're not that heavily emphasizing applications or anything like that. But anyway, it's good to be aware of what's happening in the market. I have one hypothesis for this lecture, and it is that complexity in IT has reached the point that it cannot be understood by single individuals. So the era of heroes is over. It is so difficult to see the whole picture from all new technologies that are coming from hundreds of different vendors that we are facing today. And the idea of Cygate is to stay on top of these trends that are happening. We are a leading partner in many areas in Finland, in Finnish market. We have also presence in Sweden, but we are separate companies. But anyways, we want to be on the front end of bringing these new networking technologies to our customers. And this is what we are known of. Few words about Cygate. We've been operating since '98 with different brands. It was called Santa Monica Networks during that time. And after that, it changed to Cygate, and I joined Cygate 2007, so I've been working there for 8 years now. And during 2012, we bought a company called Telecom, which is specialized in IaaS, PaaS, and SaaS infrastructures, selling them to our customers, so we host number of servers. Basically, I can say that we are currently managing 15,000 network devices and security devices and roughly 3,000 to 4,000 servers in our data centers. Net sales is about 70 million, offices in various cities in Finland. The main office is in Helsinki, where we have roughly 85% of our people. And partners include world's leading technology vendors that I will present next. In today's network management, it's essential to show that your way of operation is systematic And that's why we have done the ISO 20000, which is a service management certification done by Inspecta. They will verify that all your operations are according to best practices that all other companies are using as well. And this is quite big job to do. You have to have many policies, you have to have many process descriptions, and you have to show evidence that everything you do is according to these processes and policies. And then we have ISO 27000, which is a security standard which makes sure that your risk management is in place. So you take security issues in everything you do into account. And then we have the 14001, which is an environmental certificate, which ensures that your data centers are operating in energy efficient way. And Cygate consists of specialists. 85% of our people are network or server specialists. So very low overhead, I could say. So it's an engineering house. We have 3 different areas where we sell services and solutions. They are security, networking, and cloud and data center. So it's quite focused, but inside these there are huge variants, different kind of boxes and servers and so on. But basically we sell in these 3 domains. We used to have a communication solutions also, but that was transferred to our owner, TeliaSonera. So we don't have that business anymore. And here are the brands that we're representing. This is only part of it. We have like 90 different technology vendors that we are providing services for, but these are the biggest and the most meaningful ones. And absolutely biggest is the Cisco. We are the Cisco certified gold partner and the biggest reseller of Cisco devices in Finland. And also in the security area, where is many more different brands, but if you take security as a whole, we are the biggest consulting and also device seller in Finland. So we are in a very good position in these areas. What I can say about the data center and the server business, their market share is next to nothing. We are a small company compared to Tieto or IBM, which are doing huge outsourcing cases. We are not in that kind of business. Our customers are mainly small companies and SME type of customers. But then again, we are going to expand in this area, and this is the area that we expect to grow very fast. And I kind of like the idea that we have a deep synergy between networking, security, and data center, and this brings us to a quite unique position to offer end-to-end solutions to our customers. But basically that's it about Cygate. Here are some examples of our customers. We have public sector, very heavily present, so we are selling to ministries and different kind of public organizations, mainly to large organizations, not small ones. Then we have the large companies, global Finnish companies that we are selling services, and this is our main segment together with the public sector. And if we go to the right, we can see that we are transforming more into the data center part where we sell PaaS, IaaS, and SaaS solutions, and our presence in these companies is not so huge. But anyway, they are customers and they are growing all the time and so on. So it's quite like 2 different businesses. We have the network management of huge companies, and then we have the data center services for SMEs. So basically that's our divisions in customers. We are part of TeliaSonera, and I came from TeliaSonera. I've been working for TeliaSonera roughly 10 years before I joined Cygate. I mainly did business development and strategy work. And one of my strategy works was to figure out what we can do about the profitability issues at TeliaSonera. And at that time, I was studying here at TKK in the MBA program, and I didn't project paper that explained why we need a company called Cygate. This looks complex, but it's actually quite easy. In the upper picture, there is the number of customers in the Y-axis and the different kind of segments in the X-axis. So small home offices, you have plenty of customers, and it goes down when we go to bigger and bigger companies, leading to international companies, which in Finland are only few. And when we go from Soho to international, the complexity of the business case increases dramatically because big companies want tailored solutions. They don't buy the bulk or productized services. And this was a big problem during that time at TeliaSonera because company was mainly focused on productized solutions, and we were in trouble with the big companies. So I presented here that we need a strategic partner. I didn't say exactly that we need to do acquisition on this area, but pointed out that we need a partner for this kind of tailoring part. And this is why Cygate is at TeliaSonera, or one of the reasons why it is at TeliaSonera, because Cygate's focus is tailoring customer-specific services and solutions. So we listen carefully what our customer companies say, what they want to monitor, what they want to manage, and then we deliver them a monitoring solution and manage their infrastructure as is. So basically, we can see a huge synergy between Cygate and also TeliaSonera. And the idea here is presented also that there is no sense in putting Cygate inside TeliaSonera as an integrated entity because their strategic core is different. Operators run operational efficiency, so they seek low unit cost, and our focus is differentiation and customer intimacy, and they are totally different strategic cores. That's the main point of this picture. So the hypothesis I presented, the complexity in IT cannot be understood by a single individual. This is quite banal. Of course, I would argue that this is the case. I have 11 arguments that support my hypothesis, and you can agree on those or maybe not agree on those. This is not a scientific lecture by any means. These are mainly my own ideas about how I see the world after operating 8 years in this area. I put this picture here as a bonus for you because this is very, very essential picture. It has nothing to do with the actual hypothesis. But as my experience in field of strategy, it doesn't matter if it's IT strategy or company or group strategy, whatever strategy, the idea that we have a planned strategy with PowerPoint and some of it is realized. Usually not everything. So we have also the part which is there, that unrealized strategy. And what we need to take into account, which is especially important in IT, is the emergent strategy, because things change in rapid pace, and you cannot tie yourself into a single PowerPoint that gets updated twice a year, because the world is changing really, really fast. So the essential question in strategy is, how do you structure your emergent strategies, and how you're effective and efficient in implementing new business areas, implementing new devices, implementing new technologies, new services, and being faster than anyone else in the market. Because this is the business that IT is in. So the first argument, which brings complexity, overlay and dynamic environments. The world is changing in this area, or it has already changed. We know, of course, that we have virtualized servers. That's no big news, and it has been for a while, or the utility computing as such for a very long time. But it has come with very, very rapid pace to all our clients. So, what brings complexity in this is not that they are getting new systems, it's that they are virtualizing old systems. So they are creating a new layer which on top they put their old legacy systems, and that's a huge complexity area. And then if we talk about network virtualization, it was quite easy when we had only physical boxes and we monitored them with SNMP and ping and some NetFlow data, but now everything is, well, not everything, but many parts of it has overlay capabilities, so you actually don't know for sure where the data is going or when it's going. And the dynamic nature of this brings even more complexity because things change as a function of time. So you don't know exactly what is where, when. And this changes the network management and also the service management quite a lot. And from this picture in the right, we can see that from history we have been very capable of looking at applications and seeing the overlay layer, but it usually stops there. Or if we are coming from the downside, we can see the physical infrastructure, VLAN, spanning trees, up to QoS, but not the overlay on top of that. And this is the challenge that we are facing today. The whole visibility is not so easy to make, and especially when companies like VMware or whatever, they are bringing solutions specific to their environment, not some multi-tenant taking care of every technology in the market. And so we are starting to get boxes or monitors next to each other, and the amount is increasing, which is very bad for network operations center. Another thing which has been changing is the hybrid cloud. From the history of Crescom, they have been doing private clouds for many years and have very good monitoring platforms for this kind of thing. But on top of that, there are some tools for monitoring public clouds also, but that's quite problematic because usually they don't provide such a strict SLA or they don't provide good interfaces where you can monitor public clouds, and if you could monitor it, it's very hard to define where the problem is, if there is a problem. And usually these were kept separate. We accepted the fact that public cloud cannot be monitored by a company, so you have to take it as it comes. But for private cloud, it was a possibility. But now we are seeing more and more hybrid clouds where part of the capacity is coming from private cloud, and when it's over, then some of the capacity is taken from the public cloud. And this is something that we need to take deep investigation and see how we are going to manage to monitor this one. And there are of course plenty of tools, but changing your monitoring platform to some other platform is a huge task. It's the same as shifting from one ERP to another. So it's not something that you do every month. So you need to select your let's say, company that you run with for maybe 10 years and hope that they will bring the tools that you need for network management in these new areas. But then again, there are lots of good things about cloud computing, and of course we need to take this thing seriously, and it's part of our core business to sell also these solutions. Okay. Another thing about the monitoring is that maybe 10 to 15 years ago, there were these classics, ping, ICMP, SNMP poll, SNMP traps, and that's it basically. Nothing else there. And you could get from these quite easily the overall picture of how network is doing. But today, there are plenty more of technologies. You have the flow data, NetFlow, IPFix, SFlow, JFlow, Some of them are targeted to different layers of the technology, and some of them are targeted to different vendors of the technology. Then we have the discovery part, which is very essential in modern management of networks. So you discover the whole network and get every software versions, and you are able to do patch management and so on. And this is very essential for feeding the CMDB, which is the essential part of ITIL, the configuration management database. But the problem with this discovery is that it doesn't support every vendor. So there are still areas where you need to manually discover the network. Or there can be some stacked devices, or devices with different modules, and you don't get every information from single discovery tools. So you need many discovery tools, and this brings complexity also. Then we need the topology. In order to do correlation, we need the topology. It comes usually from the discovery, but not always. And the topology is very essential, and it's mainly doable until the level of applications. But when you add applications on top of the network infrastructure, it will become very complex to see the overall service, how it's doing. Then we have the application performance management, which is quite new, where we monitor the performance of any software. It can go as deep as into the Java classes, how they are doing, and so on. Basically, it's something that usually companies that create software use to optimize their own software performance. But from this area, you can follow the end-to-end performance of any application. And this is something that our customers are asking all the time. And I totally agree. This is where the actual value for any managed service is, that you can see how the end user performance of the application is doing. The hard part is that it's very complex to configure this application performance monitoring. So you need a legion of guys configuring it. It doesn't go automatically into any kind of rational mode. So basically, there are lots of more variations and lots more technologies and new systems that can be brought in, and the complexity and visibility has increased in both. We see more, lots more, but at the same time, it's not so easy to interpret the reports that we're getting. The third argument is about architectural waves. And this has also been going on for many, many years, as long as IT has existed, I think. There are many waves. One example of these waves is centralized data center and distributed computing. It's either or they're hybrid. And the same goes for multi-purpose box. We used to have, for example, in security, a different appliance or box for single function. But then it started to change. We are getting multi-purpose. We call them next generation firewalls, for example, where we have different, maybe 4 or 5 different add-on modules that you can put on top of the normal firewall. Or you have the F5 load balancer, where you can buy modules for application security, SSL, or a few other things. There are pros and cons in both of these worlds. In multi-purpose box, it's usually quite difficult to configure, but once it's set up, it works fine. But if it goes broken, many things go broken simultaneously, and this is a kind of a risk management issue. Then we have the virtual and physical. It's a wave also. There are critical applications that are virtual, but when they notice that it brings complexity or centralizes everything to a single or few points, then it goes back to the physicals. And when they see that the physical boxes are hard to maintain, they move it back to the virtual. So it's a wave performing as a function of time. And this is very difficult because customers are living in different phases and different life cycles. So we have companies like, let's say, for example, Posti, which has been operating for hundreds of years. Of course, they have a long legacy systems, and they are all in the different parts of this waving. And we, as a service provider, as we take everything as is into our service, so we don't do any transformation, but we try to do it when time goes by and we present the problems that they have or may not have, and this kind of waving is bringing absolutely complexity in this game. The fourth argument is optimization, and this is something that I've been studying quite deeply now that I'm starting to focus on the green IT part, and when we do network management, especially the capacity part of it or performance part of it, usually we make sure that we have enough capacity in all areas of the network, because we want to ensure that we meet the quality targets. But then comes the problem with the energy efficiency. So the energy efficiency states that no idle capacity should be present in the network. And of course the sweet spot is on the middle, but it's not that easy to figure out how to get to the sweet spot, because you don't want to compromise the performance, you definitely don't want to compromise the quality, but in the modern days you also need to take into account the energy efficiency, because it's the way to do things sustainably in today's markets. So this is something that we focus on heavily at Cygate with our engineers, how to find the correct configuration to support all these three areas that need to be taken into account. And of course, which is not shown here, is money. That's also one big factor. So you can't make an optimized system if it costs like 200% more than any other solution. So money is also very important in these areas. Argument 5, life cycle of different parts of the out-tasked managed services create complexity. I have here the classic Deming cycle. This is something that we emphasize to our customers, and we want to state that, well, this is part of the risk management. So if you have lots of legacy systems and legacy devices that are not patched or they are out of the lifecycle management, you of course need to do something about it. And there's a huge difference between customers that how eager they are to touch their working systems. For, let's say that we present that you have a security issue, and they outweigh it. Okay, I have a security issue here, but then I have a working system here. Do I want to change, equaling, break the working system so that I can get the better security? And these kind of dialogues are very common in all quality and development meetings we have with our customers. Of course, our main point is that you need to renew your environment all the time, because if it's outdated, you will definitely have security problems. But on top of that, you will have also energy efficiency problem and also performance problem in the near future. So the cycle needs to continue all the time, and when everything is changing all the time, it's quite easy to quite hard to keep up with what's happening in the environment, see the whole picture. And this is also one of the reasons why it's quite complex in today's IT. Things are changing, not only new things, but also the old things. Argument 6, security. And this is, like I mentioned, one of our key areas what we provide to our customers. This is quite small text. I'm not expecting you to see all this, but in the left part we have different technologies. We have like firewalls, IDS, IPS, VPNs, SSL VPNs, data loss prevention. We have security, incident and event management systems. We have different log systems, load balancers, content filtering, whatever. We have plenty of technologies that we can use to protect our customers' environment. And when we do this as a service, Cygate has a security operations center as well as the network operations center, and they're both operating 24/7. So we take all the data that is coming from these different systems, and we analyze them and keep our customer informed. But on top of that, we look at the customers' different security policies and make sure that all these security solutions are aligned with the policies that they have. And this is the security part. So today, there isn't a single customer case where security is not present. It's everywhere. Everything is security. So starting from the software that we are using, we have to present that it's secure. We have to make sure all our personnel have passed the Finnish authorities for background checking, and we have to have premises which is protected physically. We have to have data centers that pass the physical security. So everything is security. But then I saw from RSA this quite nice charts about the priorities of today's security. As you can see from the left part of these different technologies, the most emphasis today is for the prevention part. There is some monitoring, but if you look at the amount of resources that are put into security, 80% is going to prevention. So you buy boxes, and you buy more boxes, and you invest in people to see how the environment is doing. So monitoring and response is quite low, to be honest. And we are seeing this as companies are coming to our customers with existing hardware where they have everything here, but they have only one guy looking at the devices. So this is very unhealthy. So the intelligence-driven security emphasizes that these should be balanced. You don't need that many boxes if you have efficient monitoring and if you have smart enough security analysts. And I think this is the way security services are going. We need more talented people to look at the advanced monitoring of the environment. And this is something that needs to be taken into account. When talking about complexity, security is definitely one of the most complex areas of network management as such. Seventh argument is focusing on the causality instead of seeing the systemic nature leads to complexity. And this is something that I've been investigating also during my days at Telia Sonera, but also here at Aalto University, the systems theory. And the main argument in this is that if we are looking at a large company infrastructure, it's very complex. There are different boxes, there are different softwares, there are different kind of processes, different kind of standard operating procedures, there are policies, there are different life cycle parts of different systems. It's impossible to understand fully all the details that are present in the network. That's why it's very important to simplify, put it into some meaningful groups of things, and then instead of looking at the cause and effect, look at the interrelationship between these two different groups. In the right part, I did a one system model for arguing that profitable growth in operator business is quite difficult, next to impossible. And in this picture, we have the whole mobile operator in just, how many are there? Maybe 11 boxes. And this was presented in the management group of TeliaSonera Finland, and once I explained how this thing works, so if you turn one screw, everything else changes. That's the main point of this picture. And in network management, it's the same thing. If you optimize some box, it will affect all the other boxes in the area. Same thing if you add people to handle incidents, you will have less incidents, but then you will generate more changes and so on. So it's a systemic by nature, and this is something that is very essential in modern IT management. Not just looking at the cause and effect. That's history. Argument 8, choosing between depth and width of knowledge is a complex matter, and this is especially my own problem when I'm selecting people to our IT operations center. When we have like 90 different vendors and maybe 15 different technology areas, meaning VLAN, LAN, load balancers, firewalls, IPS, whatever. When you're sitting in the front line 24/7, you have to have some knowledge about everything. And this is the price you have to pay, that you absolutely cannot have deep knowledge on a wide area of things, because they are so different. So if you know servers by heart, you know deeply, go and ask something about how to do the global load balancing in this F5. And there's a full silence. So the main task for me is to see that people are coming into the IT operations center with quite low knowledge deeply about anything, but they know what is a firewall, they know how to do some standard changes into it, or they know how to change some iRule maybe in F5, or they can configure switches from HP, Juniper, Cisco in a basic level. And when they advance into the tier 2 support, then they start to specialize. And how fast you can start to specialize is a very complex matter, because if you have plenty of people who are deeply specialized, you will have to have superior capabilities of people communicating between each other. And this is something that I have found to be quite challenging, maybe because people are not that used to, when they come out of the school, that it's all about communicating between different people, not so much finding out everything yourself, because it's not efficient to know everything about everything. So this is something that we need to keep in our mind, that the area of depth where we go very, very, very deep, it goes to narrow, narrow, narrow. And when you're in a very narrow area, you're in trouble in network management. Argument 9, reactive, proactive, and predictive. This is a classical network management theme. Reactive is quite easy. You receive an alarm and you solve it. Proactive means that before the alarm, you collect trends, so you can see linearly that after 2 days there will be a problem, and you fix it before that. But the predictive part is that you can see the future, that with these combinations you will have a problem. And this is something that is very, very difficult at the moment. And why it's difficult? Because usually service providers like us, we don't have the resources to do this kind of investigation. In Finland, services are purchased mainly, not always, but mainly as price as a prime factor of purchasing. And when that is the case, we need to lower the prices, meaning in the higher right part that we are doing the lag strategy. So we add people only when we run into quality issues. It would be nice to do the lead strategy when we add more people to make sure that we can deliver all predictive tasks that are required by our customers. But this is an endless game of selling quality and arguing against the price. And at the same time, typically customers, when they come in, we have time here in the x-axis. When we receive a new customer, mean time to repair MTTR is quite high. So it takes time because we don't know the environment. Maybe we don't have very good network diagrams, or the systems are not working accordingly. But when the time goes by, we will start to learning curve. So we will learn how the customer works, how the services works, how the network infrastructure is configured, and at the same time we can fine-tune our automation level so that we get less false positives, alarms, and we can predict from the baselining what is going to happen. But it takes time. Now when you are in a heavy growth and you get lots of customers at the same time, it's always the lag strategy which is the result. So it takes time to bring people to the service operation. It's not something that you take out of school and then they start to operate immediately. You have to learn how the systems at customers are built and what kind of different policies they have, what kind of procedures are needed, and so on. So this predictive network management is a very nice idea, and I definitely think that it's valuable to customers, but it's very hard to get there as the pace is so fast at the moment. Argument 10, processes are not enough. And the classical mistake of separating thinking from doing. This is also something that I've been working on during my MBA. In the left part, in the lower left part, we have a typical process organization. There are sub-processes, and then there are parent processes, and you have a process owner for each sub-process, and then an owner for parent process, and then you have the mastermind, the green box that looks the end-to-end process. And now if you want to change something in this kind of configuration, you first contact the sub-process manager who evaluates your idea, and then he contacts the parent process owner who contacts the mastermind, and the mastermind decides what to do and takes into account the whole picture. This is very inefficient and it takes a long time. And this is typically the way large companies operate. What my suggestion is that you have only a group of people. There is a problem coming in and a solution coming out. You have only boundaries that our SLA is to react in 15 minutes and create a resolution in 4 hours. Everything else is up to the people who are working in this unit. So they can do it by themselves. This is when communication starts. When you realize that you don't have time to learn everything and there is no mastermind to tell you what to do. You have to communicate with each engineer who are next to you, or you have to know who knows in order to solve the problem. I have found this method very efficient at Cygate. This is something that we are using. This doesn't mean that we don't have processes. We have processes, but they're not defined to the level of doing something according to process. They are just telling you what is the minimum what is required in order to say that you have solved a problem in a good quality, so that customers are happy. They have gotten enough information and so on. So in the upper part, the old way of doing things is no more valid. The product prices are going down. This is the trend that has been happening for many, many years. And at the same time, the labor price is going up. So this will lead to a gap between these two. And the idea here is that this gap must be filled with leadership, which leads to this kind of, this is management world, this is leadership world. We need also innovations. People need to renew their way of working all the time. something that has worked before may not be the most efficient way, and there is no way to benchmark how things should be done. It's all up to the group, not individual. This is my idea of these processes, even though I'm very process-oriented. Argument 11, automation is coming, but slowly. There are lots of talk about automation in the market at the moment. It's mainly focused on cloud services, so you can order, for example, a new server and it will be up and running in 15 minutes after you select how many processors you need, what operating system you need. And this is something that has been in the market for a long time. But automation is coming also in network management. There are systems that can learn how engineers do their work, then they will normalize the data, or they will record it, what the engineer is actually doing with terminals and what commands he's feeding and so on. They will normalize it, syntax it, and put it in an automation engine. So next time an alarm comes in with the trigger of some normalized action, the automation will go directly to the device, fetch the information, make the decisions, and correct the problem. This will decrease the routine work that engineers are doing. But we have had experiences with one of these systems, and it definitely works. No argument against that. But the bulk load of doing is in change management, and still no automation can do this kind of managed changes into customer environment, because you need to take into account the dynamic nature, the systematic nature of the environment. So you need a human being still thinking about, is this rational or not? But the trend is so that a manual work will go down and the work of systems will go up. That's the trend in any kind of network management or server management. And the role of big data is very essential in this. It is very essential in the monitoring platforms, because huge amounts of data are coming from our quite small environment of 15,000 devices. There are terabytes of data coming in, and we need efficient ways to analyze this data. But this is very interesting area. So if the arguments, what I presented, are true, then the hypothesis is true. And I would say that the main focus in modern infrastructure service should be managing this complexity. This is not an easy task. But anyways, it's not something that is hidden. You just need talented people who interact with each other. So the emphasis should be in communication. And this is like a no-brainer. Of course, it must be like this. People need to communicate together. You have plenty of specialists which are working in narrow areas. So in order to get a full picture, people need to work together. And I have really high hopes for the automation. It will change the way networks are operated. It is built already in some Cisco boxes. There is this automation capabilities that they will fix themselves, and there will be monitoring platforms that can perform various tasks, and it's advancing very well. There are also some artificial intelligence, we call them tier 0 service desk operators that are no humans anymore, so they will understand language, written language, and answer in complete sentences. And this kind of new technologies we need to investigate, of course, deeply and see how they're doing, or how do they fit into our purposes. But I can assure you that the complexity is not going to be easier in the future if we take any kind of prediction from the past. there will be more and more different kind of boxes. There will be Internet of Things coming, and many kinds of new trends that are coming to this area. And of course, Cygate, as a quite small company, we need to be on top of our customers and see how they are running their business and provide infrastructure services for them. Basically, that was my part.